Hello, Jack again. Now you may remember me for the video that I made which summed up the entire Kingdom Hearts series in one video, which is the reason many people subscribed, and yet despite all that I covered in those 26 minutes, there was still plenty of stuff that I missed out, forgot about, and just didn't explain thoroughly enough.
Don't tell me there's more! I'm lost enough as it is!
Now there's no need to worry because that's why this video is here. I'm going to tie up all the loose ends and answer all your questions in this video, which is sort of a sequel to my last video. And it's a bit more structured and scripted than my previous video, so it should also be a bit more concise and easier to understand. So here's my list of FAQs and missing pieces from the Kingdom Hearts series that will all be filled in this video. Question 1. Are you Scottish? Okay, yeah, this is a quick thing I want to get out of the way. A lot of people were asking about my accent, and I didn't even know I had an accent until I made this video. But a few people were able to figure out that I am indeed Scottish, I am from Scotland, and they appreciated the accent, so thanks guys. A few people thought I was Irish, that was pretty amusing, but I'm not exactly Irish, it's not my thing. Okay, on to the actual Kingdom Hearts questions now. Now, one of the most commonly asked questions by people who didn't really read the description was, where is Coded, or Kingdom Hearts Recoded? See, the Kingdom Hearts game Coded for the mobile, or its remake Recoded for the DS, it's a game that takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2 but before Dream Drop Distance, and I left it out of the summary. I didn't include it in the video at all. The reason for this is pretty simple. Coded's impact on the plot is pretty minimal. While Days and Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance have their importance to the plot, and some more than others, especially Dream Drop Distance and Birth by Sleep, Coded was pretty much filler. It didn't add too much to the plot, it didn't add anything to the overall story. The only real thing we got were a couple of revelations about Data, Hearts, and in particular the whole thing about Master Xehanort coming back. When a Heartless and Nobodies is defeated, the original person comes back, and I did actually include that part in the video. I left the secret ending in because that has a big importance, but all that stuff is covered in Dream Drop Distance anyway. Another reason is that even by Kingdom Hearts standards, it's pretty convoluted and it would just mess up the pacing of the video and make you even more confused than you are now. But for those who want it, I'm going to give you a quick summary of what happens in Coded right now. Basically, Jiminy Cricket is looking through his journal of the first game that was completely blank after the events of Chain of Memories that wiped it clean, and he finds a secret message that he didn't know about before. So he investigates it with the king, they go into a computer and turn the journal into data, and then they create a data Sora to fight all these bugs that have appeared in the journal after it was turned into data, and they unravel the secret of the message through exploring the journal in data form, which has all memories of the world in a data. Basically, the journal seems to have a sort of consciousness or a heart which comes to life when it gets turned into data, and there's this big adventure in the data realm. Data, Maleficent and Pete get involved a bit, and data, more data. Long story short, the message was left by Namine while she was tampering with Sora's memories to let everyone know that people like Aqua and Terra and Ventus, these guys, they're in trouble, their fates are tied to Sora, and through Sora she was able to see that they need help and that they need to be rescued, setting up a plot for the future, and the whole thing about Data having hearts came up throughout the game, and basically a lot of stuff happened that was later established and clarified anyway in Dream Drop Distance, so the game was kind of obsolete as a result. But don't get me wrong, the game is canon, it did happen, just like every other handheld game. A lot of people seem to make the mistake of thinking that Kingdom Hearts handheld titles are non-canon. They aren't, they are really canon. They do happen, they do have an impact on the story, and they do end up being important later on. And Coded is no exception, but it's just a much smaller game compared to the others, so you can easily get away with leaving it out. So that's what I did. Alright, time for two questions at once. These two questions are commonly asked and both of them are pretty connected to each other, so I'm just going to handle them both at the same time. First one is, why does Roxas look like Ventus? Or vice versa, why does Ventus look like Roxas? And why does Vanitas look like Sora? Or is it vice versa, why does Sora look like Vanitas? These four characters undeniably look very similar, and I'm going to cover why in this little segment here. Now, take into account how Vanitas was born. He was born after Xehanort ripped the darkness out of Ven's heart, almost killing Ven, and forged it into the being we know as Vanitas. Now, when Ven was almost going to die because of this, Xehanort took him to Destiny Islands to leave him there for his last few moments, which is like the kindest thing this guy has ever done. But when he did this, Ventus's heart got into contact with Sora, who was born at this exact point, supposedly. Apparently supplementary materials and stuff say that it was going to be different, but that's another story. Basically, Ventus linked his heart with Sora, Sora filled up his broken heart with light and managed to fix him up and make him better because, you know, newborn hearts, they can do that, they're special because they're little babies. And when that happened, Ventus and Vanitas, as a result, because Vanitas being half of Ven's heart and connected to Ventus, were both affected by Sora. Now, the way this affected Ventus is pretty clear. Ventus got better. Well, sort of, it was a gradual process, but he got better. As for Vanitas, Vanitas didn't have a face when he was born. He was completely faceless, at least that's what's implied. People will argue that, but it doesn't really make a difference. The fact is, Sora's heart connected to Ven, and through this connection it reached Vanitas, and Vanitas turned into Sora, in a sense, physically anyway. I mean, if Ven had connected with, say, Riku, then Vanitas would look like Riku, or Riku with black hair, as that seems to be the case. So after that, as we all know, the game's events take place, and they end up with Ven losing his heart in the battle with Vanitas, and he starts to disappear, but because of that connection he had with Sora earlier in the game, he's able to reach Sora as he starts to die for the second time. And his heart is disappearing, but we see him, you know, go to Sora and enter Sora, and I did explain that. I kind of thought this was, you know, enough information, but I suppose I should probably have gone into more detail here. When Ven's heart went into Sora, this later affected Roxas. When Sora stabbed himself with the keyblade that he used to free Kairi's heart during Kingdom Hearts 1, this also created his nobody Roxas, yeah? But just as Kairi's heart was released, Ventus's heart must also have been released. And either because Ventus's body is miles away in Castle Oblivion, or something or other like that, Ven's heart was unable to reach his body, so it ended up just going back into Sora's body, or it was just stuck in Sora's body for one reason or another, and in a nutshell, Roxas has Ventus's heart. To further explain, being Sora's nobody, Roxas does have Sora's body, but without Sora's heart and only having Ventus's heart, the appearance of Sora's body was altered to look like Ventus, so that's why Roxas looks like Ven rather than Sora, despite having Sora's body and being Sora's nobody. As for why Sora's walking around for the rest of Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories without a body, that's because of what Kairi did. Apparently she gave him a physical form, a body, with her power, and that sort of filled in for him without really being whole, without actually having his exact body back. There's a bit of debate over what exactly that is, whether Sora's still a heartless or not, but in the end it doesn't really matter, because he gets his body back through Roxas in Kingdom Hearts 2, and that all happens. I should also clarify that Roxas is not Ventus. He has Ventus's heart, which does affect his ability to feel and think in certain ways, but generally he is his own person. He clearly does establish his own identity, and this is later proven in Dream Drop Distance when Sora defines him as that, and as such. Now for a surprisingly common question that still gets asked to this day. Where is 23 minutes 47 seconds from? Yes, I've memorised this point in the timeline because of the number of people who didn't know where this clip was from. It's a scene in CGI with all the keyblade wielders gathering in the keyblade graveyard, popping up to fight Xehanort at night, drawing their keyblades and looking cool. And many people didn't know where this was from. So I'm going to say it right here and now. I've just got to make this really clear. This is where it is from. This is the opening to Dream Drop Distance, the CGI introduction with the orchestral version of Hikari playing over it. I'm guessing not too many people have seen the opening of Dream Drop Distance, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about it here. It covers a lot of the stuff that's happened throughout the series, mainly the key characters and key events, mainly the final battle between Xemnas, Sora and Riku in Kingdom Hearts 2, and then it shows a little bit here in the Keyblade Graveyard with Master Xehanort fighting against Sora and Riku and Mickey, and then Mickey opens a book and summons all these characters from the past to fight him. And to clarify, no, this is not a preview of Kingdom Hearts 3, this is a possibility. Tetsuya Nomura confirmed in an interview, this is a potential outcome, maybe this is how it will end, but it was just basically a bit of a teaser really. I mean, it could not end up that way. I mean, Xion isn't there, for example, and neither is Axel, or Lee rather now, so yeah, that's just there as a possibility, and it's a little look at the future, you could say. And now, once again, I'm going to cover multiple questions at once, and those questions are any question at all to do with Kingdom Hearts 3. Guys, I'm glad you loved the video, and it's really cool that you think I know a lot about Kingdom Hearts, and to be fair, I guess I think that as well, but I don't work for Square Enix. I'm not in on Kingdom Hearts 3's production. I have no idea what's going to happen or what's coming up next. I know just as much as you do in that regard. Kingdom Hearts 3's coming out, and when it does, we'll all have it, we'll see everything that happens, but until then, I can't answer for certain about certain plot details. So for example, you can't keep asking me about the 7 lights and the 13 darknesses that Xehanort is gathering for his final battle, okay? That's nothing we know about yet as of the moment, okay? And especially questions to do with Terra, okay? I have no idea where Terra is. That's the mystery as well. We're yet to have that resolved. The last we saw him, he was fighting for control inside his own body with Xehanort, but it seems that Xehanort was in full control ever since then, so where's Terra now? They should have been put together as one person, right? Since the Heartless and Nobody were destroyed. Actually, I also want to clarify, in the end of Dream Drop Distance, there's the big confrontation with all of the Xehanorts in the round room, and you see Master Xehanort, the old guy that we knew from Birth by Sleep, sitting at the top, and it has been confirmed that Master Xehanort, the old guy, he's not time travelled here from Birth by Sleep. That old Master Xehanort is the reformed one from the defeat of Ansem and Xemnas, okay? That made this guy. So that's another big question. If that's the guy that was reformed from Ansem and Xemnas, Where's Terra? Why is he just Master Xehanort? Shouldn't they be Terranort the way they were fused before when they split in the first place? That's the big questions that everyone's asking, and I'm sure, I bet it has something to do with hearts. But as for where Terra is now, Master Xehanort does imply, he does hint in the dialogue that he does still have Terra under his control. But apart from that, that's the only clues we have, and we really don't know anything else until then, so I'm sorry, but I can't help you there, okay? If you want, I can offer my speculation on the matter. I mean, we know for certain that Master Xehanort, Ansem, Xemnas, Isa and Braig, or Xigbar and Syax, and no, they're not through time travel, those guys are also the reformed people who came back after their Nobodies were destroyed, and young Xehanort, those are 6 confirmed members of the 13 Darknesses. Apart from that, we don't really know, so I'm also going to say Terranort is probably a given. I'm hoping there's a new character, like, we know there's young Xehanort, why is there not like a older but also younger Xehanort, like an adult Xehanort or a middle-aged Xehanort? That would be kind of silly, but you know, at least one new version of Xehanort that could possibly be in the organization as well. Vanitas is also kind of a good guess, and others are speculating on other members of the organization, and out of them all, I only really consider Luxord to be a possibility, but only because we don't really know that much about Luxord. That's my thoughts on the 13 Darknesses. As for the 7 Lights, actually, I don't really think the 7 Lights gathering of the 7 is going to be much of an issue, because I think Sora and the gang are going to be gathering a lot more than 7 to combat Xehanort. They don't want to gather 7 and fuse the keyblade or anything. That's Xehanort's thing. Sora and co, they want to stop Xehanort from doing that. And if they can't stop the 7 being gathered, then they might as well just gather every force they possibly can. So any potential candidate for the 7 Lights, which doesn't have to be a keyblade wielder by the way, Donald and Goofy could be one of the 7, okay? There's plenty of possibilities for that. So yeah, there's pretty much any good guy, okay? Even Ericus, is wherever he is. Now for a pretty hard one. What exactly is Xion? Now this is complicated. Now we know that the organisation have had dealings with replicas before. We saw in Chain of Memories the Riku Replica, which was a replica of Riku, effectively like a clone, but the way it works is a bit more different than that. What they have is, they have the replicas, the bodies, the blank slates, the empty canvases, the puppets, and they seem to impart the data from that person, such as Riku in this case, onto the replica and make him from a lifeless doll to Riku's exact double, with voice and personality intact if necessary, or memory work can be done as well with Namine. It's complicated, not entirely known to us at this point, but do you at least get it? If not, I don't really blame you. How about this? The way replicas work is it's a bit like printers. You know when you want to print something onto paper, you've got a blank piece of paper, you put it through the printer and all the information is printed onto it. It's a bit like that with the replicas. The replicas are dolls, they're lifeless, they have no features whatsoever, but using the data they can turn them into an exact copy of another person, which is what happened with Riku. But this is not what happened with Xion. And that does still cause a bit of confusion, so I will clarify, Xion is a replica, she is not a nobody. She was passed off as a nobody as number 14 in the organisation, but she is not a real nobody, and she was never a real member in that same vein. She was just a replica, effectively an experiment that they were carrying out with the organisation, which many of the members were completely oblivious to, Roxas included, and that was his entire arc in 358 over 2 days.
Do we know where she is headed?
It, not she, is a replica. Merely a puppet.
A puppet? What does that mean exactly?
A puppet is a puppet.
Talking about the replica program, isn't it obvious?
So Xion is a replica, but who's she a replica of? In actual fact, she's not a replica of anyone. Remember how I said replicas are like blank pieces of paper waiting to be printed on? That's what she is. She's a blank slate. She hasn't had anything printed onto her. She was just a faceless doll that was sent to the organisation in order to actually get that information printed onto her through Roxas. She was made to copy Roxas's powers. They were hoping, Xemnas and Syax and Vexen and all that, they were hoping that Xion would be able to copy Roxas's powers so that they could create a second keyblade wielder for their side, for their purposes. However, they didn't really count on a lots of side effects happening while this was going on. This is kind of where the scumbag side of Xemnas really shines through, because it's clear that he intended for Roxas and Xion just to be tools for him to gather hearts, and he didn't really want either of them to have personalities, he just wanted to use them. And when Xion developed a personality, that was when the project really started to fall apart and he was saying we need to shut this down. So yeah, why did Xion have a personality? Where's the face come from? Why is she not a faceless doll still? As she was copying Roxas's powers, Roxas was still inheriting some of Sora's memories. Not at first, of course. When Roxas was born, Sora turns back to normal, so he never got those memories. But after Sora went through Chain of Memories and his memories started to fall apart thanks to Namine and all the events of that game, those memories started to filter away from Sora and into Roxas. So Roxas was collecting Sora's memories, but they were just passing right through him into Xion, who was copying Roxas's powers. You You can see how this is a bit confusing. So Xion was copying Roxas's powers while Roxas was starting to absorb Sora's memories, and as a result, Xion started to absorb those memories instead. All the memories that belonged to Sora and should have passed to Roxas, by nature of Roxas being Sora's nobody, they went to Xion, who's effectively a replica copying Roxas. So all of Sora's memories started to really get trapped in Xion. Xion was taking in the memories, and that's why she looks a bit like Kairi. Sora's strongest memory is Kairi, so when Xion took the appearance of Sora's memory, she looks a bit like Kairi as a result. This was all against Xemnas' plan. He never intended for Xion to pick up Sora's memories, to become an actual person, to form a sense of self-identity. He expected she would just be a tool that can use the keyblade that he can throw out whenever he wants. But this ends up happening and Xemnas starts to get annoyed, but he realises that he can use this to his advantage. You see, because Xion was absorbing Sora's memories, Sora was unable to wake up. Because Sora needs his memories to wake up, that's what Namine was trying to do for him, but it took an entire year because Xion had trapped those memories within her, and in order to get those memories back, well, you know how that ended. There's a lot I can talk about when covering Xion, so I've not even covered everything probably. That is the majority of it, and that is the main idea of what Xion is though. So if you have any further questions about Xion, then ask, and to the best of my ability, I will answer you, okay?
Xion was affected by Roxas, just as we had anticipated. But then, through Roxas, Sora himself began to shape it into her, giving Xion a sense of identity. Our plan seemed like a failure at this point. But then it occurred to me, Xion is keeping Sora's memories trapped by claiming them as her own. Keeping her close to Roxas will ultimately prevent Sora from ever waking.
Now let's drop down to something more simple. A question I have been asked, so I might as well cover here, is Vanitas or Riku, are either of these two guys heartless? And no, they're not. Alright, next question. Okay, fine. Riku did not become a heartless. To become a nobody, you need to create a heartless first. Riku didn't do that. He just became consumed by his darkness, and eventually Ansem possessed him. Maybe Riku would have become a heartless, but he didn't. Ansem took over his body by exploiting his darkness, the same way that Xehanort did to Terra before. And as Ansem was doing that, Riku's heart was expelled from his body and sent to the realm of darkness. And Ansem continued to jump around in his body. That's Riku's body you're fighting at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. After Sora does the whole Kingdom Hearts' light routine, the body is purified of Ansem in a sense and returned to Riku on the other side in the realm of darkness, which is where Ansem had sent Riku to, as I said in the previous video. Riku did not create a heartless, nor did he create a nobody. And yes, there was a remnant of Ansem left in him, which Riku fought during Chain of Memories. So, you know, when you think about it, all the villains that use darkness yet not becoming heartless, you could get kind of philosophical about that. It shows they have some amount of strength, even though using darkness is still a weak thing to do. And well, anyway, I won't get too off topic. As for Vanitas, no, he's not a heartless. It's basically as simple as that. He's just the darkness of Ven manifested into a person, okay? Now one last question for those who didn't get to play Dream Drop Distance and have been asking a lot about this. Sora, yeah, at the end of Dream Drop Distance, Riku is nominated Master. He passes the test of the Mark of Mastery, and many people sort of interpret this as saying, so Sora failed the test, so Sora's not a Master, so Sora can't use the Keyblade anymore? I'm not really sure where this is coming from, guys. Think about it. Sora has never been a master before. He didn't pass the test. Why would he not be able to use it now? It's just a simple case of misunderstanding. So I'll just explain that Sora did not pass the test, and that's it. He's still the same Sora. He's still the same guy. His ability to use the Keyblade has not changed. Neither has Riku's by passing the test. He's just titled a master now. So it's not too big of a deal, guys. Don't worry about it. Sora can still use the Keyblade. He's just not a master yet. And Riku passed. He earned it. Dream Drop Distance was a big stage of character growth for him, where he really mastered his darkness, and you should see it. If you haven't played Dream Drop Distance, I'd highly recommend it. But yeah, that answers that question. I'm also going to add that the whole thing about the Keyblade title, Keyblade Master, being added in later does cause a bit of confusion, considering that often in Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora is called a Keyblade Master, but they don't mean it as the titled sense where you're officially recognised as a Keyblade Master. Sora is just a Keyblade wielder, but not a master, and never has been a master. And when people call him a master, they covered their bases by saying it's not a capitalised master with a capital M to show that it's the title. It's just them saying, so you're the master of this Keyblade, and that's effectively what it is. Okay, that just about covers the FAQs. That's all the questions most commonly asked, done and answered. So I'm now going to go on to talk about the parts of the Kingdom Hearts series that I did not cover and I really should have covered in the previous video. So this is all the missing pieces and the parts that I got wrong. Okay, if you have any further questions after this, then feel free to leave them. I will do my best to answer them all the same. This is a big series and there's a lot to take in, so don't worry about it. Now, I tried to cover a lot of my bases with annotations, so if you're watching my old video, it would help if you watched it with annotations to help cover some of this stuff. But one really big thing that I really got to cover right away, and tried to have it covered with a really big annotation, was the entire thing concerning Aqua and Kairi, how Kairi got her keyblade, and just Kairi's keyblade in general. I completely forgot to cover all of this, so I might as well start with the passing of the power, the whole method of passing down the ability to wield the keyblade that Terra gave to Riku. When Terra did that to Riku, what he did was he held out the keyblade, said a little chant, and Riku took the keyblade in his hand, and by touching the keyblade, that did it. That passed on the ability should Riku be deemed worthy later down the line, and so it was, and that's where Kingdom Hearts 1 comes in. But a few things to mention are that the chant is not necessary. The little poem that Terra says is not necessary. You just need to touch the keyblade, and that's all it takes. You just need to be holding a keyblade, and that will happen to you. This happens when Aqua runs into Kairi briefly in the middle of the game. Kairi's under attack by Unversed, she runs to Aqua's side for protection, and she puts her hand on Aqua's keyblade. This is a bit important because later down the line, Kairi has a keyblade, and that's how she got it, through the passing of the power that Aqua accidentally performed on her. And people have asked, since we've seen it happen in the various Kingdom Hearts games, so does this mean that Squall or Leon or Jack Sparrow are going to get a keyblade because they were holding Sora's keyblade? Does that mean it's going to happen to them? And no, because Sora wasn't a keyblade master at those points in time. You need to be a keyblade master, or at least as powerful as a keyblade master, in order to pass the power like Terra and Aqua were. But in Sora's case, he wasn't that strong, he wasn't that powerful, he didn't have that title, so he couldn't pass the power to Squall or Jack. And even if he could, you have to be worthy of the keyblade to earn one after a certain amount of time, and the determination of worthiness is a strong heart. Do you really think a pirate like Jack is going to have a strong enough heart to, you know, have a keyblade? Well, you know, a keyblade? What I'm trying to say is don't get your hopes up. In all likelihood, this is just going to be completely forgotten. Alas, poor Jack. At least you have a really cool name. Getting back to Kairi, it's kind of weird how she finds her keyblade because it doesn't pop into her hand. It's given to her by Riku, and people speculate various explanations as to why this happened. But the long story short is Riku handed Kairi her keyblade. I'm guessing Riku sensed that Kairi could use the keyblade or had a keyblade. Maybe even he was even able to summon the keyblade since he's a keyblade wielder himself. So he was able to summon the keyblade for her and then give it to her. But whatever the case, Kairi gets her keyblade there. Doesn't use it too much. It's kind of left hanging without any real explanation. Given a bit more explanation in Birth by Sleep, and hopefully bouncing off the secret ending to Dream Drop Distance, it's going to be important later on, so keep that in mind. And the next thing I really badly forgot, and I really shouldn't have because this is such a big deal, is Riku Replica. I guess technically his importance to the overall story is kind of minimal, so I got away with missing him out, but nonetheless, he is a good character. This is the way replicas were introduced to the series. This was the organization's first copy of another person. They took a replica, filled them up with Riku's data during Riku's adventures up Castle Oblivion, and then they used this replica with his memories manipulated by Namine to fight Sora, so Sora thought he was fighting Riku, and there's a lot of conflict between Sora and this fake Riku who believes he's the real Riku, until eventually Riku's memories are completely wiped by Namine and he just comes to the realization, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, and I should not exist. And Axel uses the Repliku, which is a fan name of him. He uses Repliku to get rid of Xion, and Xion was another important member of the organization, and then Repliku's just left alone, so he wanders around until he finds the real Riku and has a confrontation with him. One of those there can only be one Riku sort of things. So the two of them have a bit of a face-off, and just in general, it's a really tragic subplot. Even though it's a subplot, it could still be pretty important, so I am mentioning this now. That was the Riku Replica. He disappears after that, assumedly dead, but there was a second Riku who appeared in Riku's story during Dream Drop Distance. While Riku was exploring Monstro's world, he came across a hooded man who had stolen Pinocchio, and it turns out the hooded guy was Riku, and then he just leaves. It is never addressed ever again. Riku just sort of thinks about it and says, that was my dark side, and we don't really know who that is. Is he maybe a member of the 13 Darknesses, or is this a memory? What is that? Like, I don't really know what that is. Could the Riku Replica be back? I doubt it, honestly, but nonetheless, that is the Riku Replica and his sad but kind of awesome story. Okay, here's a pretty big one. Namine. Just Namine's existence, her birth, where she came from, and the fact that she's Kairi's nobody. First and foremost, Kairi is a princess of heart. We all know that. Kairi has a heart of pure light, so there's no darkness in it. So that means it can't create a heartless. Without any darkness in your heart, you can't make a heartless. So none of the princesses of heart are capable of having heartless, and therefore incapable of having nobodies. However, when Kairi loses her heart, it goes into Sora, and then later Sora stabs himself with the keyblade to rescue Kairi, which I mentioned earlier. And when that happened, Sora created a heartless. And the fact that Kairi's heart was leaving Sora's body just as a heartless was being born, basically the situation was right. The prerequisitions were met. So Namine came into existence as a nobody. But she's clearly not made of Kairi's heart, she can't be made of her soul, she can't be made of her body or her mind. What is Namine made of? She just seems to be a phantom, something that came out of nothing. It's kind of strange, and it definitely happened because of what Sora did, but it's unexplainable. And that's part of the reason why Diz has so much apathy for her, because she's just so bizarre. Like, how did she exist? It does kind of make sense that scientists will naturally hate things they can't understand, and as for Namine, imagine what that's like. Her entire existence is coincidence based on extremely extraordinary circumstances, but that's how she is. And the fact that she's a princess of heart nobody, and in particular Kairi's nobody, born through Sora's act from Sora's heartless, is why she has those powers, the powers of memory manipulation that are specifically tailored to Sora and his friends and those connected to Sora. That's how it works for her. It has to be said, if there's one thing the Kingdom Hearts series is good at being, it's extraordinary. Now, a key note I forgot to mention was that I talked about the realms, the realm of light and the realm of darkness, and I talked about them as though they were the only two realms in the Kingdom Hearts universe. But I did forget there are actually two more realms worthy of notice. One is the realm of nothingness. This realm is apparently an empty wasteland that Diz ended up in at one point, and that's where he basically became Diz, darkness in zero. He found himself lost in this blank abyss that Xehanort had somehow banished him to, and eventually he managed to find his way out through a corridor of darkness. But that's how Ansem the Wise became Diz, getting trapped in effectively a limbo realm. So that's the realm of nothingness. Then there's the realm of in-between, and this realm is just what it sounds like. It's between the realm of light and the realm of darkness. It's like the bridge that connects them, and there are various worlds that are found on the realm of in-between, and for all intents and purposes it's kind of in the realm of light more than it is the realm of darkness, but it does kind of close the gap between them as well. Worlds like Twilight Town, that would be one that's in the realm of in-between and is kind of closer to the realm of light. Then there's the world that never was. That world is also in the realm of in-between, but it's very close to the realm of darkness. See, there's sort of like a scale. There's like a slider of some sort where the worlds can be closer to the realm of light in some cases and closer to the realm of darkness in some other cases. So that's the realm of in-between. It's pretty complicated, but it's also very simple when you think about it. I guess it kind of goes without saying considering everything that happens in Dream Drop Distance, but technically there is also the realm of dreams, the realm of sleep. That's also another realm which I guess you could also add to the list if you were making a list. Now, there's also this plot point concerning the ending to Dream Drop Distance, and I think I should include it for those who want to hear it. So there's also the Armoured Ventus nightmare, which Riku fights at the end of the game. See, when Riku goes into Sora's heart to rescue Sora, he comes across Ventus's armour possessed by darkness. What happened was, Sora's heart was getting engulfed by darkness because of him falling deep into sleep, but Ventus's heart appeared to him and protected him with his armour, but the darkness eventually seeped into Ventus's armour and possessed it, causing it to attack Riku. But Riku beat it back, just drove away the darkness, and the armour broke apart to reveal Sora safe and sound thanks to Ventus's armour, even though the armour itself got possessed. The important thing to take away from this is, Ventus's heart is a lot more powerful than it was before. Okay, this is a very important plot detail. I can't believe I forgot to put this in the previous video. I was going to build up to it, but then I forgot to put it in later, and I'm really sorry. The people pointed this out, and here it is. Nobodies do have hearts. It's a fact. It was confirmed in Dream Drop Distance. Through Sora's experiences in his dreams meeting Roxas and that, he discovers that nobodies do have hearts. He has a confrontation with Xemnas and Xigbar and points this out to them, that they did have feelings, they cried. You need to have a heart to weep for people, like Roxas did when Xion died, or when Axel did when Roxas and him both left each other. Xemnas had been lying to everyone from the beginning that nobodies don't have hearts. It is true that when a nobody is born, they don't have a heart, they don't have anything, with the exception to Roxas, as I said, having Ventus's heart. But this proves that Roxas grew his own heart later on, as did other nobodies such as Axel and Xion. They didn't have hearts, but through experience, through pain, through memories, through all sorts of things, they grew their own hearts, which does happen. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what you are, you can grow a heart. Ansem the Wise appears to Riku at the end of the game in Sora's heart. It's a data recording, and he mentions this fact himself. He points out that anything is capable of growing a heart if nurtured properly, and that's what happened to Roxas and his friends. All along these guys had hearts, but Xemnas had been lying to them from the beginning so that he could create an organization full of 13 Xehanort that were of course empty vessels beforehand with no hearts because of all his lies and his dogma and doctrines, and as a result then they'd be perfect candidates for being filled up with a brand new heart that could be used for Xehanort's nefarious doings. And of course the organization we see in Dream Drop Distance is a different one to the one we've known throughout the rest of the series. The Organization 13 we fought in Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2 and so on, they were like the beta phase of the organization. They were testing, they were a trial and error version of the organization that were gathered at first to see if they were worthy candidates. Not all of them were, which is why the likes of Lee, Ienzo, Alias and so on, they haven't joined the new organization. And Isa and Braig, that's definitely Isa and Braig we're seeing in the new organization, but they are still going by the name of Sayax and Zigbar. They're still keeping the names they had as organization members because it's all representative of Xemnas' idea of getting them to give up their old self and become new people, which are of course Xehanort controlled people. That's where Isa and Braig are at the moment. For those that don't know, I'm also going to add that Zigbar openly said in Dream Drop Distance that he's already half Xehanort. He's been possessed by Xehanort since Birth by Sleep actually. If you pay attention to his eye colour in that game, it changes at some point. He's been sort of been influenced by Xehanort for a while now. The same goes for Sayax. Look at his eye colour when he's Isa. Look at him now. Now here's an issue I got entirely wrong in the previous video. This is some misinformation I was spreading there. I really have to clear this up. When Sora and Riku end up on the beach at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, they are not in the Realm of Darkness. That beach they're on is a different beach to the one that Aqua and Ansem are on. So I was wrong. Aqua and Ansem are not in the same place as them. They could not have helped Aqua even if they'd waited around a bit. Aqua was on the other side of that ocean, opposite them, on the other beach in the Realm of Darkness. That was them at the very edge of the Realm of In-Between, looking out over towards the Realm of Darkness, which is where of course Aqua and Ansem were. So they were actually opposite each other, not nearby. Sorry. Alright, this bit's going to be dedicated to one character in particular, so everyone, tilt your head back, look up at the sky, and say, Sora. Now I covered earlier that Sora's still able to wield the keyblade, but some people seem to be a bit misunderstanding about how Sora is able to wield the keyblade in the first place. See, the general idea is, since Ven's been in Sora's heart all this time, that's how Sora's been able to wield the keyblade, because he had Ven doing it for him. That's how he had the power. That's not the case, guys. The keyblade chooses its master, and it's specifically stated the keyblade chose Sora in Kingdom Hearts 1. We even saw the keyblade choose him for good, for real, at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, or near the end, in Hollow Bastion, when he makes his "My friends are my power" speech. When he says that to Riku, the keyblade clearly jumps out of Riku's hand to Sora. That was the strength of Sora's heart winning the keyblade. And even before that, when Sora was wielding the keyblade beforehand, there was no Ven influence there. That was all Sora. His heart was stronger than Riku's for a time, and that's how he was running around with the keyblade, no problem. And then Riku took it back once Riku effectively called ownership of it, and then Sora got it back later on after he built up his own heart strength and, well, earned it effectively. And Sora did earn it. Sora has earned it, and Sora still wields the keyblade today because of his own heart, not Ven's. If you need more proof, then look at this. Sora dual wields in Kingdom Hearts 2, 2 keyblades. And you can't wield 2 keyblades if you have one heart. The other keyblade belongs to Ven. It's Ven's keyblade that Sora's wielding as a secondary one. So the first one is his, the second one is Ven's. As for how Sora unlocked that ability, that was after Roxas unlocked it. Once Roxas' Nobody unlocked the ability, then Sora was able to do it as well. As for how Sora could have unlocked it without Roxas, that's always possible, but that's how it happened. After Roxas got the ability, Sora got the ability. And no, the second keyblade is not Xion's. Xion's keyblade was a copy, a replica, that disappeared when she did. Roxas basically found the ability to wield Ven's keyblade afterwards because of, partly I guess, Sora's memories being released from Xion and a certain surge of power in him, and also a certain emotional outbreak probably woke up that power, you could say. It's not very specific, we don't know all the details, but that's sort of how it worked. Another kind of important episode of Dream Drop Distance that I kind of cut out and I probably shouldn't have is Sora's journey through his dreams. When he's falling into his dreams so that the organization can get him into a stupor for their plans, Sora runs into all these people that he's connected to and people he knows. He sees Namine, he sees Xion, he runs into Riku and Kairi who turn into Aqua and Terra, and Sora himself sees himself as Ven for a bit. And then as for Roxas, Sora runs into Roxas and Roxas gives Sora all of his memories, his experiences. So Sora has seen and even felt what Roxas went through. This is how he came to the conclusion that Roxas had a heart and nobodies can have hearts after all. And Sora even tries to tell Roxas when he meets him, which is a really awesome conversation. He tells Roxas straight and once and for all what we all wanted to hear.
No. Roxas, you're you. We're not the same. I wanted to tell you that you deserve as much as I do to be your own person.
And then he runs into Zigbur and Xemnas afterwards, but this is after he sees a little flashback and he remembers meeting Aqua as a kid in Birth by Sleep, which was one of the events that happened, which I also kind of glanced over. And during that phase he also runs into a certain Ansem, or Ansem Seeker of Darkness figure, which the organisation weren't controlling. They can't put that stuff in his heart. They say so as much afterwards when he runs into Zigbur and Xemnas, but then if they didn't, then what's that doing there? What is that? That's a little unsolved mystery. Oh, one more thing. There is also this idea that people have that Sora has a heart of pure light. There are a few people who have said that, and I want to clear that up and say no, Sora does not have a heart of pure light. Only the 7 princesses of heart, and Ven, due to his extreme circumstances, have hearts of pure light. Sora does not. He has darkness in his heart like anyone else. And sure, because he's Sora, he has a very limited amount of darkness. That's why when he became a Heartless, he only became a shadow as opposed to a stronger Heartless. The strength of your darkness depends how strong your Heartless will be, and that's why Sora's Heartless was so small, because he has very little darkness, but he still does have darkness. It's something the organisation exploited in Dream Drop Distance when they tried to put him into sleep, and it's something that let him become a Heartless in the first place. If he didn't have any darkness, he wouldn't have been able to become a Heartless. So yeah, Sora does not have a heart of pure light. Just wanted to clear that up. Alright, this video has clearly outstayed its welcome, so I'm gonna finish off with one last question. Let's wrap this up. The question is, where are they now? People like to ask often where the various characters in the series are at this point in time, what they're doing prior to Kingdom Hearts 3's start, the end of Dream Drop Distance basically. So let's go over them all. Yen Sid is in his tower, he never leaves. Maleficent and Pete tried to invade Disney Castle, but failed. No one knows where they are now. Lee has headed back to Radiant Garden, where Yenzo and Alias are. Evan and Dylan are there, but they haven't woken up yet, they're still unconscious. Sora was last seen heading to the Dream World to say thank you to the Dream Eaters for all of their help and all that they've done. That's all he was doing, guys. Some people have read a bit too much into it. Don't worry, he's not gone to Traverse Town, he's not lost, he just hasn't got back yet, but nothing's wrong with him. He's not training there either. He just went to say thanks to the Dream Eaters. It was a little bit of a wrapping up the whole plot with the Dream Eaters. Kairi was brought to Yen Sid's tower for some training. Riku was the one doing it, so I assume he's following a few errands from Yen Sid. Donald, Goofy, and Mickey are all at Yen Sid's tower as well. They're all probably preparing for Xehanort's threat. And of course, Xehanort and his pals, they're well, we don't know. They're nowhere to be seen. Aqua and Ansem are still in the Realm of Darkness. Ven is still in Castle Oblivion. Ericus, probably dead. Terra, no one knows. Except perhaps Xehanort. Anyway, that's the video done. That's everything I could cover in one video. This has been a massive thing. I don't want to drag this out too long because the video is already long enough, so I'm just going to say thank you for all of your support and all of the questions you've passed me. If you have any more, feel free to ask them. I'm here, I will be here, and thank you for watching. This has been a pleasure to do. Bye.